Hello everyone, this is Lily from North American Blockchain Association. Today we have the honor to invite Mr. Marwan Forzley to participate in our interview today. Thank you for being here, Marwan.
Thank you.
To start off our meeting, why don't you briefly introduce yourself and your company to our audience?
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. So, online commerce is a way to enable SMBs to move money around the world using a very simple way to pay instead of doing bank wires, which is a painful experience to both the payer and the receiver. Online is really about simplifying the customer experience so that when you're moving money to China or Germany or Philippines or anywhere else in the world, it's down to a simple action. It's like one click to move the funds. And so we wanted to simplify the entire experience to the user. That's why we created online. I used to run e-commerce for Western Union, and after a couple of years I decided to start online because I've seen how complicated cross-border payments are.
Yeah, sure. So you've mentioned blockchain, and I know blockchain and Bitcoin is kind of really hot topics right now. But some customers may not be that familiar with this kind of technology. So for you, for your company, how do you explain this to customers, and how do you make sure it appears like credible for your customers?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question. So we. Because the use of our technology is for transport of money from one country to another, we simply use the technology behind Bitcoin, which is the blockchain, and we explain to customers that we're using the infrastructure, and so they get comfortable with that because. The thing about the infrastructure that's really interesting to them is the tracking of the transaction is superior compared to existing methods of moving money, and you get a lot more transparency. And so the reason why customers trust us is because you get superior tracking and superior transparency when you use the blockchain, and trust is a function of that. Transparency and tracking that happens with this technology.
Great. So I know you're currently mainly focusing on small business, small medium business. So are you thinking of like expand the range to like individuals or a greater scale of business?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So we have an infrastructure that is fundamentally used to move money from one source to another, from one country to another. And so our focus is on the SMBs. We are planning long-term on having focus as well to larger, mid and larger enterprise. We see ourselves as a platform provider so that other players in the space that are enabling consumer functionality can leverage this infrastructure to move funds.
So I know there's a lot of startups in the space of blockchain technology, maybe on the pavement or other sort of service providers. So how do you view that online commerce differentiate with your competitors in terms of the startups or those businesses in the space?
Yeah, it's really differentiated based on a number of factors. One is the simplest possible experience to move money around the world. It's designed not only to be simple, but also to be price efficient compared to existing services, mainly bank wire and some of the competing products in the marketplace. We're the only party that has both the payer and the receiver on the platform. Generally speaking, when you're moving money, in general, you basically tailor to the payer, and the needs of the receiver are forgotten along the way. So what we wanted to do is to make sure that the system we put together adds value to both ends, the payer and the receiver. And so we designed it with that perspective, and it's really unique because in the market, all the services, whether they're bank-based or competing to banks, are tailored to one party, which is the payer. And so the needs of the receiver are forgotten along the way.
Yeah, that's really interesting to talk about, like tailor to their needs that sometimes in the payment service doesn't appear that much in terms of like you really catering their needs and know their pain points along the process. And also, because as consumers, we are very used to like trusting the banks, and now like with the e-payments like PayPal or all the things. What about the competitors that kind of in that space?
Yeah, you know, there's been a lot of interest in the blockchain from both banks and payment providers in general. I think a lot of what we'll see in the market is that a lot of the existing providers over time will also look into testing on the blockchain, adding blockchain as part of the infrastructure that they have. So we see the market evolving, and we see the blockchain market to become a lot bigger, a lot more mature, and a lot more integrated into some of the existing players in the market. So we expect that over time, some of the existing vendors will embed or include blockchain in their offering.
Okay, great. I know you have a rich experience in payment and with e-currency. Is that something that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I think like for this type of business, you really need to know global payments very well.
Yeah.
You need to know foreign exchange very well. You need to know blockchain very well. You need to understand rails very well, the blockchain versus bank wire versus moving money on your own bank accounts. So you need to understand that whole, rails function very well. You also need to understand regulatory and compliance. So there's a lot of know-how and skill set required to assemble this business.
Yeah. It's good that you brought up the international payment thing. I think that's a really big topic. That how do you view this business growing, like apart from like adopting blockchain technology, or are there any types of new trends?
So we grow the business by focusing on more countries, more currencies, more functionality to the user, integration into platforms that the users use to process their payment and do their work. So these are all things that we work with to increase our service and appeal in the marketplace.
So we cover a lot about blockchain technology. So now there's a voice that in the future, like third-party agency may be limited. How do you view this viewpoint for in the future?
Well, so if you think of the way money moves today, it moves from a bank to a bank to a bank to a bank. Now with the blockchain, you kind of remove intermediaries. There'll be other providers that work on top of the blockchain to essentially help move money in a different way. So it's not that the world will end up with completely peer-to-peer. There's going to be services on top that help administer the information access and the customer service and the acquisition of the business, of the businesses that use the platform. But it's sort of, you're replacing intermediaries by different technology that essentially removes bottlenecks from the flow of funds. And that's really the beautiful part about new technology, is that you have new tools to work with to eliminate friction and pass that saving and and the saving is both in time and money back to the user.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting in terms of the development on the intermediaries or on blockchain technology. And also for your company, like I know it's growing quickly right now. Just out of curiosity, how scale in terms of global market is it for Align Commerce right now?
Yeah, so like global markets are big markets. There's every year there's 25 trillion that moves on bank wire. 6 trillion of that belong to small business. They pay 50 billion in fees. That money goes to the bank in revenue, and it goes away from the business user. So what we're doing is essentially saving time and money to the customer, passing that money back to the SMB and to the user, and we make money along the way by giving a better service, simpler, faster, cheaper than what they have today. So we think of this business as going after a large open market with high pain point, with an industry that has not seen that much innovation in the past decades, and we're providing something that's innovative, that's self-serve, that's simple to use, and we're passing money back to the user.
Great. So for your company, for Line Commerce, what sort of opportunity or challenges are you facing at this stage?
Yeah, great. The opportunity is really tremendous. I mean, it's a big world. There's so many countries, so many corridors, so many verticals, so many different types of customers. They all have the same need. They all have the same problem.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is very wide and very large. The challenges, obviously, it's a complicated business. Requires a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, high on regulatory and compliance issues. So we're always, the mind's always busy on what can go wrong on these types of businesses. And so, it's a complex business to operate, but in general, the opportunity is amazing.
Yeah. So you talk about that you try your best to make your customers be aware along the way of the transferring process, be transparent and be knowing the flow of the whole process. So I know this is really hard, like in terms of payment. I mean, for banks, there's always problem and issues on deposits, on drawing, on everything. How do a company manage to do that and kind of make sure that customers are satisfied?
Yeah. So like one of the things when you're transferring money to, for example, China, we disclose the foreign exchange rate, and you can compare it to market. So that's transparency, and it's a really nice way to tell the customer that, hey, you can use us and compare it to the market rate, and so you know what you're getting. And also, when you start moving money on the line, and it's one of the beautiful things about the blockchain is you can track the payment. And every time money moves from one account to another, and it hops on the blockchain, the amount of tracking is so superior that you can give that functionality to the user so that the user knows where their money is at. The problem with bank wires is when you send the money out to the receiver, you don't know what happens to your money until the receiver tells you, hey, I have your money. And we think that's wrong. That the payer, the minute you start transmitting your money to the receiver, you and the receiving party should know exactly where that money is at. And so the combination of tracking and transparency are really important for us and their own value to the customer.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So talking about blockchain technology and its application and its threat or opportunity for all the industries, are there any specific industry or sector you view will be threatened the most? And if you were a company or player in that space, how would you cope with it?
I mean, I think the blockchain will have a significant impact on a large number of industries. Because it's really about transfer of assets from one party to another, and that has a number of applications and a number of markets, of which money is one of them. I mean, so we started in payments, but there's transfer of customer records, there's transfer of KYC data, there's contract management and insurances and the concepts around escrow services that can be set up on the blockchain, so that the opportunities are wide-ranging. And so I would encourage participants, both new and existing, to take a serious look at this technology. The new participants will find it really interesting to work with and a way to establish a new service to the user. The existing incumbents will find it as a tool to essentially provide their customers something better than what they have today. And that's how I would view the blockchain. And I think it's a market that's maturing fast, becoming more reliable, more mature, more interesting. A lot of players involved, a lot of startups, a lot of interesting technology being built.
I know you're expert in startups, so what's your vision of this industry and also blockchain technology within it, like for the future?
A good analogy of the blockchain is actually voice over IP. About 15 years ago, there was a new protocol in the market called VoIP, voice over IP, and it had a big impact on telephony. And so you used to call Brazil, for example, and pay $5 a minute. Now you call Brazil on Skype and it's 10 cents. And so it had massive change on that industry. And also along the way, there's been very different tools to communicate. So instead of making phone calls, now you use Skype and you have video, and so it changed the entire way you do things. And so I think of the blockchain as kind of similar to voice over IP. It'll do the same impact, it'll have the same impact on payments, on insurance, on any industry that's heavy on intermediaries, where the middleman, if they're not adding value, the new technology will replace it with something more modern, more interesting. And so there will be cost reductions, there'll be elimination of intermediaries or reduction of intermediaries, and there'll be new services offered to the market that are really interesting to the user. I think in summary, I'd say that blockchain will have a foundational impact on a number of industries. It'll have real impact on society, on consumers, on businesses that end up benefiting from this new technology. It's a young technology, it needs a lot of time still, but the foundations of it are good.
Yeah, I think there's a good word that I heard that about the application of blockchain will bring more prosperous. That I think that's a good word, that because it's, like you said, eliminate the cost, the time, and just make everything more convenient and make it more possible to, to more transactions and to more prosperous.
It'll be millions of apps.
So thanks again, Marwan, for being here.
Absolutely.
And wish you all the best for your company.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.